My name is Julia Hayes. I am 28 years old. 1 week ago, my husband and I were celebrating our first wedding anniversary with both of our families. It was meant to be a beautiful evening, especially because I was 3 months pregnant with our first child. But in the middle of the celebration, a stranger suddenly stood up and pointed at me. Then he said something that made the entire room fall silent. He claimed that the baby I was carrying was his. To support his claim, he even presented medical reports to everyone. Within minutes, people began whispering. My husband's family turned against me and started shouting that he should divorce me immediately. I stood there in tears, trying to explain that the man was lying, but no one believed me. No one, until my husband suddenly did something that shocked everyone in the room. Even I didn't expect it. But before I explain what actually happened, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel and share your country in the comments. Now, let's begin. That night, our house was filled with light, music, and laughter. It was our first wedding anniversary, and my husband had arranged everything perfectly. The living room was decorated with soft lighting and flowers, and a long table stood in the center, covered with food that his family had helped prepare. Relatives and close friends arrived one by one, bringing gifts and warm smiles. Everyone was well-dressed, talking, laughing, and enjoying the evening. From the outside, it looked like a perfect life, and for a moment, I believed it was. I stood near the window, gently holding my stomach, feeling a quiet sense of happiness inside me. I was 3 months pregnant, and even though we hadn't told everyone yet, that small secret made the night feel even more meaningful. My husband came and stood beside me, placing his hands softly over mine. "Are you okay?" he asked gently. I smiled and nodded. "I'm happy," I said. And I truly meant it, because despite everything, I loved him. But the truth was, our marriage was never as simple as it appeared. I came from a very modest background. My parents had worked hard their entire lives just to provide me with a basic education and a decent life. We never had much, but we had dignity and honesty. My husband, on the other hand, came from a wealthy and influential family. They owned properties, businesses, and lived a lifestyle I had only seen in movies. When he chose me, I could hardly believe it, and neither could his family. At first, his family tried to remain polite. They smiled, spoke kindly, and welcomed me into their home. But over time, things began to change. Their words became sharper, and their smiles less genuine. Sometimes the comments were subtle. "She doesn't really fit in here," that her background is different. And sometimes they were more direct. "People from her level don't understand our lifestyle." I tried to ignore it. I tried to adapt. I changed the way I dressed, the way I spoke, even how I behaved in front of guests. Not because I wanted to, but because I wanted to be accepted. Because I loved my husband and didn't want to create conflict between him and his family. He always told me the same thing. "Don't listen to them. I chose you." And I believed him. That night, as the celebration continued, I noticed his family watching me again, whispering quietly among themselves. I pretended not to notice. I focused on the music, the laughter, the guests. I kept reminding myself, tonight is special. Don't let anything ruin it. After some time, my husband stood up and raised a glass. The room slowly grew quiet. He smiled and thanked everyone for coming, speaking about our first year of marriage, about the future, and the life we were building together. As I listened, my eyes filled with tears. For a moment, everything felt right. But just as people began clapping, something unexpected happened. A man I had never seen before slowly walked into the room. At first, no one paid much attention. People assumed he might be a late guest. But instead of greeting anyone, he walked directly toward the center of the room. Then he stopped and turned toward me. His eyes locked onto mine in a way that made me uneasy. The room gradually became quiet again. Confused whispers spread among the guests. Before anyone could ask anything, the man raised his voice and said, "I'm sorry to interrupt this celebration, but everyone here deserves to know the truth." My heart started beating faster. I had no idea who he was or why he was looking at me like that. Then, without hesitation, he pointed directly at me and said something that made my entire world stop. "The baby she's carrying is mine." For a moment, the entire room went silent. Then whispers spread everywhere. People looked at one another in confusion, trying to process what they had just heard. Some thought it might be a joke, but the serious expression on his face made it clear that he wasn't joking at all. I felt as if the ground beneath me had disappeared. I don't even know you, I said, my voice shaking. But the man didn't step back. Instead, he looked around at everyone and spoke more loudly. I had an affair with her, he said confidently, and that baby is mine. Gasps filled the room. My heart raced uncontrollably. No, that's not true, I cried. He's lying. But before I could say anything more, he pulled out a file from his bag. If you think I'm lying, he said calmly, then look at this. He handed the documents to one of my husband's relatives. Within seconds, people gathered around. These are medical reports, someone said. They clearly match the timeline, another voice added. And look at this, someone else whispered. The man then took out his phone and showed photos of us together. I froze. Those pictures looked real, too real. I don't understand, I whispered to myself. I've never met him. But no one was listening anymore. The room was no longer filled with celebration. It was filled with judgment. My husband's mother stepped forward, her face full of anger. Before I could react, she slapped me hard. The sound echoed across the room. My head turned to the side as tears instantly filled my eyes. This is disgusting, she said. You have brought shame to our family. I didn't do anything, I cried, tears running down my face. But she ignored me and turned to her son. End this now, she said sharply. Divorce her immediately. Other relatives joined in. We always knew she wasn't right. Look where she comes from. This is exactly why we were against this marriage. Each word felt like a sharp blow. I looked at my husband, hoping he would say something, hoping he would stop all of this. But before he could speak, the man stepped forward again. I didn't want to expose her like this, he said calmly, but I couldn't stay silent anymore. That was the moment something inside me broke. Stop lying, I shouted. But in the very next moment, my husband suddenly stepped forward. His face was no longer calm. He walked straight toward the man, and without warning, he grabbed him and pushed him back hard. Enough! He shouted. The entire room froze again. Before anyone could react, he punched the man, making him stumble to the side. How dare you come into my house and say this? He said angrily. Then he turned toward everyone. His voice was firm. I know my wife, he said. I know her better than anyone in this room. A heavy silence filled the air. She would never do something like this, he continued. I don't care what papers you show or what pictures you bring. My heart stopped for a moment. I believe her. Those 3 words carried more weight than anything else. But his family did not stay quiet. His father stepped forward, his expression cold and serious. Think carefully before you make a mistake, he said. We gave you everything. His mother added, if you choose her over your family, then you are no longer part of this house. Another relative spoke. You will lose everything. Your name, your wealth, everything. The pressure in the room became overwhelming. Then his father's voice turned even colder. You have to make a choice, he said firmly. We will not let this girl ruin our reputation. I felt my body shaking. This was no longer just about me. This was his entire life, his family, his future, everything. Tears kept falling as I looked at him. I didn't want to be the reason he lost everything. At the same time, I was terrified. Terrified that even he might change his mind under all this pressure because of everything at stake. In that moment, everyone in the room waited for his decision. For a few seconds, no one spoke. All eyes were on my husband. His family stood there, waiting for his answer, waiting for him to choose between me and them. I could barely breathe. Tears ran down my face as I looked at him. I didn't say anything. I didn't beg, because deep inside I was afraid of the answer. Then finally he moved. He didn't look at his family. He didn't say a single word to them. He simply walked toward me and held my hand. That one small action said everything. Come with me, he said quietly, and without looking back, he walked out of the house with me. Behind us, I could hear voices shouting, his parents calling his name, relatives trying to stop him. But he didn't stop, not even for a second. That night, we left everything behind. The big house, the wealth, the life he had always known. We sat in the car in complete silence. As soon as the door closed, I broke down. I couldn't stop crying. I swear I didn't do anything, I said again and again. I don't even know that man. Please believe me. My voice was shaking. I was scared. afraid that maybe, deep inside, he still had doubts. He turned toward me. His voice was calm. "I know you," he said. "I trust you." I looked at him through my tears. "No matter what anyone says, no matter what they show," he continued, "I will not believe a stranger over my own wife." Those words gave me a sense of peace I can't fully describe. But then his expression changed, becoming slightly more serious. "This isn't over," he said. "He's lying, and I need to find out why." Over the next few days, he didn't rest. He started investigating everything, every detail, every small clue. He used his contacts, his influence, everything he had, because he was certain of one thing. That man was lying. But the question was, why? At first, the man tried to avoid everything. He ignored calls, refused to respond to messages. But my husband didn't give up. Eventually, he found him. This time, there was no way out. The man was brought in and made to speak. At first, he repeated the same story, but slowly, the truth began to come out. Under pressure, he finally admitted everything. He confessed that it was all a lie. He said that my husband's family had paid him to come to the party and accuse me. They had instructed him exactly what to say, what documents to present, and how to make everything appear real. For a moment, I couldn't even breathe. My husband stood there in silence, trying to process what he had just heard. Then he asked one simple question. Why would they do this? The man hesitated briefly, then lowered his head and explained that his family had never accepted me. He said they had always wanted their son to marry a wealthy woman, someone who matched their status and could protect their reputation. Because of that, they didn't want my child to become part of their family or have any claim to their wealth. Those words changed everything. My husband didn't respond immediately, but I could see it in his eyes. Something inside him had completely broken. A week later, he made a decision. Without informing anyone, we returned to his family home. When we arrived, everyone looked surprised. At first, they assumed he had come back to fix things, to leave me and return to them. But they were wrong. He walked inside calmly, holding my hand, and stood in front of his parents. The room was silent. Then he finally spoke. He told them everything. The truth, the lie they had created, the man they had paid, every detail. His mother's face turned pale. His father tried to remain composed, but his expression shifted. Then his mother began to cry. "We only wanted a better future for you," she said. His father added, "We did all this for your good. You may not understand now, but one day you will." My husband looked at them for a long moment. There was no anger on his face, only disappointment. Deep, painful disappointment. Then he said quietly, "I trusted you." The room fell silent again. "I could have lost my wife and my child because of you." No one had a response. Then he stepped back and said something I will never forget. "From today, I have no family here." His mother broke down completely. His father tried to stop him, but he didn't stay. He didn't argue. He didn't look back. He simply held my hand and walked away. For good.